Cubs bats go quiet again, this time in San Francisco, and they lose the opener.
You are Locked On Cubs, your daily Chicago Cubs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Cubs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm Sam Olber. I'm a lifelong fan, taking my passion into a discussion with you on all things Cubs. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. A lot to talk about for this episode. Later on, I recorded a segment before the game started, just talking about how a lot of Cubs players are outperforming expectations and why you have to take advantage of that and maximize this season as much as you can. We're going to talk about some PCA, some SEA, some potential lineup stuff maybe the Cubs can do here over the next couple of weeks. But we'll start in San Francisco, where the Cubs-Giants game was a quiet one. It was a pretty lackluster performance. Not a lot really to get like super angry about. Not a lot to get super excited about. Just kind of one of those baseball games. Cubs lost the game by a score of 5-2. If you didn't get a chance to stay up for it, Justin Verlander looked like prime Justin Verlander, getting just his second win of the season. I didn't realize coming into this start he was 1-10. He's now 2-10. He threw the ball pretty well. I thought the Cubs did him some favors offensively. Matt Chapman had the big blow, a 2-run home run in the sixth. And then some dink and dunk work for the Giants off of Matthew Boyd in the fifth. Cubs bats were quiet. Maybe a Shaw RBI single is your highlight. Couple hits for Pete was nice to see. Pete's also stole a base, but nothing to write home about for the Cubbies. Matthew Boyd went 5 1/3, 5 earned, 8 Ks. Let's start with him. The Matthew Boyd part of this, that's back-to-back starts now for Boyd where he hasn't been sharp. His ERA now in the month of August is over 4. I think it's really easy to say, well, maybe he's fading. Maybe he's getting tired. Maybe they need to be careful with him down the stretch. But if I'm being genuinely honest with you, I watched all the pitches from the game. I thought he looked really good. I thought he looked really sharp. Velocity was good. Location wasn't great, and he made a couple bad pitches. The pitch to Chapman was a 1-2 mistake. It looked like he was coming towards the end of his day anyway. They weren't, these last 2 outings against the Brewers and Giants, they weren't, horrendous efforts by any means. They just were, not the Matthew Boyd we're accustomed to seeing this year, but I can assure you I'm not overly concerned. I'm just not. I would be concerned if the stuff didn't look as sharp. I would be concerned if the velocity was down. These starts just seemed more of a victim of circumstance, maybe a little bit of a victim of regression. But I didn't think Boyd was terrible. I think when you look at that line on your drive home to work on Wednesday, it doesn't really talk about how he pitched. He wasn't that poor, and it's just one of those things. I was surprised by it just because the Giants are really, really bad versus left-handed pitchers. They came into today with a 609 OPS versus lefties, so I didn't see it coming, but it was one of those days at the ballpark. Ramos had a little double down the left field line, wasn't hit overly well. Devers had a little bloop single for an RBI. I mean, the Giants only had 7 hits total, so it wasn't like he got knocked all over the park. It was just a sequencing thing, and it just didn't work out for him. Offensively, I mean, it was kind of more of the same. I mean, Saturday night was the game we've been waiting for. It was that offensive explosion. But the Friday wins and the Sunday wins against the Angels were grinds. They were definitely close, tight games late, and that's what the Cubs have been playing a lot of lately. So, at some point, this offense is going to need to get back to where it was. It's going to need to get back to, scoring 5, 6, 7, 8 runs a game consistently. I mean, it's not an exaggeration to say that since the first half of the season, the Cubs had literally, one of the 2 or 3 best offenses in baseball, and since the All-Star break, they've been one of the 3-4 worst offenses in baseball. What's kept them afloat, as we've talked about, we'll talk about later in the episode, is that since the All-Star break, they've had the best starting pitching staff in all baseball. That didn't hold true today, but it's always a victim of circumstance. It's always a hindsight thing when you do this, because if the Cubs found a way to win this game, let's say 3-2 today, we would come out and go, hey, the offense did just enough. Matthew Boyd was sensational again. But, this is this game. I don't want to take too much out of this game because it just felt like one of those games. There wasn't a whole lot in it. But if you're going to take something out of it, it's, this is a reminder that in the postseason, and I do feel very, very confident, and as we all should, that the Cubs are going to make the postseason. In the postseason, what if Matthew Boyd, you're going to play a 3-game series most likely. What if Matthew Boyd does give up 5? Does that mean it's just game over? You know what I mean? You want to get back to where you were in April, May, because like the Cubs have done a lot of good things. They've done a lot of good things here recently. I think the next step now, as we talk about our analogy and we talk about this process, the next step now for the Cubs, the first thing they needed to do was just get some wins, right? They took 2 out of 3 from Pittsburgh. They took 3 out of 5 from Milwaukee. They swept the Angels. They've stacked up some wins. In that process, though, the offense, I wouldn't say has been great. They've had some good games and a really nice get-right game on Saturday night in San Francisco. In Anaheim. It's been a late night. But they haven't, they haven't exploded offensively yet, or they haven't been consistently great offensively yet. So maybe now the next step, the next thing we could look for, obviously winning is the most important thing. But if this team is going to get deep into the postseason, if this team is going to make a serious run, you're going to need to see the April and May offense probably combine with the July and August pitching. And so, it would be really nice to start seeing some signs. We've seen some signs from Kyle Tucker, another hit today. Wasn't a great game really for anybody offensively, but at least he had another hit. And you're going to need guys like Pete. You're going to need guys like Seiya. You're going to need guys like Bush and maybe some lineup stuff to just get this offense going again consistently, because that right now is what seems like the next hurdle. Right. The first hurdle is you got to start winning some games, feel good, get into the postseason. You're in a really good spot with that right now. You've earned that right with the way you've played up until tonight. The next step, the next thing I think we'd all like to see is to just have this offense start scoring 5, 6, 7 runs a game. So when you do go 5-2 down on the road in San Francisco, it doesn't feel like, boom, game over like it did tonight. Some ways to do that is to get some of the main guys going and maybe mess around with some lineups. We're going to talk about that coming up next. This episode is brought to you by Game Time. There's nothing like catching a baseball game live. The energy, the crowd, the chance to see your team in person. But actually getting tickets, that's the tough part. Q's login screen, surprise fees, it takes all the fun out of it. That's why I use Game Time, the app that gives the advantage back to fans. Game Time is fast, easy, and backed by the Game Time guarantee. You'll always get 100% authentic tickets delivered on time and at the best price. Plus, all fees are included, so the price you see is the price you pay. I have been to 2 games in the last week. As you guys know, I was there Saturday against the Pirates, and I was there Wednesday night against the Milwaukee Brewers. And I got to tell you, Game Time was incredible. I wait, especially on Wednesday. I waited till about 4 hours until first pitch. Got a great seat, enjoyed it. It was a good price. I saw my seat before I got there. I knew exactly what I was going to see when I arrived. It was it's easy. It's efficient. It's the best way to get your Cub tickets. So download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket. Go download Game Time today. This episode is also brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL season is almost here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. FanDuel, to me, it's the best part about football, especially when the Bears aren't on. That first Sunday, September 7th, remember, the Bears play Monday night, home underdogs versus the Minnesota Vikings. But on Sunday, I mean, I'm going to just line up that slate. I'm going to go on FanDuel. You could go play your props. You can go games. You can go live betting. It's the best way to experience your football Sunday. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. We are back here on Locked On Cubs. Shout out to the everydayers, and you could become a Locked On Cubs everydayer by joining us for every episode throughout the week. Reminder, Matt and I will be back for tomorrow, but we will be doing a show before the game. It's not going to be a game coverage game. We're going to be doing a show before the game. Coming into the game Tuesday night, Pete Crow-Armstrong was slashing 156, 212, 234 for a 446 OPS. Now he improved that with a double and a single on Tuesday. But the question remains with this lineup, as we talked about earlier, hey, they need to hit again, right? They need to start doing what they did in April and May consistently for this thing to get where it needs to go. Is there anything the manager can do? Is there anything lineup construction-wise that can be done in order to facilitate that quicker? Meaning, look, the Kyle Tucker thing, I think we kind of say, well, that's over now. We don't know. It's only been a couple games, but it's almost like with Tucker, you just have to assume it's figured out. It's like the basketball analogy. It's like if you're the Denver Nuggets, you don't have a chance. Like, with all due respect to, their supporting cast, you don't have a chance if Nikola Jokic isn't at least 90% of himself. So you have to go into that season, or you have to go into games expecting that, because that's just how your team is built. And so with Tucker's situation, is it a little bit premature to go, well, I don't think, I think it's a little bit early to say he's back. He just had 2 really good games against the Angels. Yeah, but I think as Cubs fans, I think as Jed and Carter and Craig look at it, I think they absolutely have to just say to themselves, hey, Kyle Tucker is our guy, and he looked like Kyle Tucker, and we don't feel like we have much of a chance if Kyle Tucker's not going to be Kyle Tucker. And so that, in a way, kind of puts that aside. So then you look at the next crop of guys: Pete, Seiya, Bush, Hap, Kelly, whoever it is. What is it that you can do? Well, I do think Owen Casey, it's obviously a small sample size. I'm a little bit confused as to why he has become a bench player after the couple games he showcased against the Brewers. I just think and we talked about this yesterday, so it is a little bit redundant, but I do think he's earned the right to just be a rotation, right? Especially when Seiya is struggling. Like, why can't Hap, Suzuki, and Casey just rotate every couple of games? Sure, if the playoffs started tomorrow and you wanted to bring Casey off the bench, that's totally fine. But, why does he have to be subjected to the bench? I just don't understand that. Have Hap and Suzuki done enough this season where they say, hey, those are the guys. Now, in Hap's defense, he has hit the ball better recently. He doubled on Tuesday. And, this is a really hard thing. Like, this is a really hard conversation in baseball to have, because, I was the same guy saying, well, Tucker needs time off. Tucker needs to be IL'd and all that stuff. Now, granted, that might have been true a few weeks ago, but I was also saying it after Thursday's game in Milwaukee. And then Tucker came out Friday, hit a home run. Saturday, he hit 2 home runs. And now all of a sudden, because of that, you feel better about the Kyle Tucker situation. So benching guys, it is really challenging. And I'm not sure when you do it. I still think they were a little bit late with Tucker. if not a lot late. But we have seen this with Seiya before, especially right around this time of year in 2023. I do think guys benefit from a reset. And I think, Seiya is one of them. I think Seiya is somebody that definitely the mental part of the game is a real part of it for him. And when he struggles, he struggles and he feels it and he presses, especially because he's such a guesser up there when he hits. And I mean, you look at Seiya's slash line now. I mean, you know, it's he's hitting 244 with a 319 on base. I mean, if you told me those first two numbers before the season, I'd be like, oh my goodness, the Cubs are in big trouble. Now he's made up for it with some big RBIs and 477 on the slug, but I'm not even sure. And you guys will see in a bit when we talk about outperforming expectations. I say is definitely not outperformed expectations. I think he's met them because of how strong his first half was, but he's really struggling here. And the talk rightfully was about Kyle Tucker, and now it's shifted to him. As far as Pete goes, I've said this a lot. I'll continue to say it. I'm not mad at Pete. I just think that this is a young man who's tired. He's got a lot on his shoulders. I think what you could do with Pete is maybe it's so hard to platoon him because he's your best defensive player. But I do think there's a world where you can, maybe every now and then when a lefty starts, give Willie Castro a start. Because isn't Willie Castro on the team to hit lefties? He pinch hit again for Shaw in the ninth, versus a righty. He's not a good hitter versus righties. So, it's just kind of odd how he's been used. I think because Shaw's been so great that kind of took away the acquisition. I think the Willie Castro acquisition ultimately was one for insurance for Matt Shaw, and Shaw's been great. But take advantage of Castro's ability to hit lefties and maybe just give Pete a day or two here and there. Like I guess the point of this segment is we saw what 2 days did for Kyle Tucker. You can't underestimate what 2 or 3 days can do for a guy down the stretch here. The Cubs situation is I don't want to say it's locked in, but they're in a pretty good spot for a playoff spot, and it's going to be really hard to catch the Brewers in the division. So what you can do is just make sure guys are at their absolute best as they head into the home stretch. Now the Cubs are having a really good season, and I want to talk about why they're having a really good season and just actually get into the nitty-gritty of how many of these guys right now are outperforming projections and what we thought they would be. We're going to talk about that coming up next. This episode is brought to you by Upside. Hey, Locked On Cubs fans, are you still paying full price for gas? Stop leaving money behind. Get real cash back every time you fill up with the free Upside app. Simply download the free Upside app in the App Store or Google Play right now and start earning cash at the pump today. Use my limited time promo code SEASON to get an extra 25 cents back per gallon on your first fill up. You can make up to $300 a year just from buying the gas you already needed. At first, I thought it was too good to be true, but it's totally legit. Real people are getting paid just to make their daily commutes, and you can too. Plus, you can cash out anytime to your bank account, PayPal, or an e-gift card for Amazon and other brands. Don't let this offer drive on by. Download the free Upside app now using my limited time promo code SEASON for a limited time 25 cent per gallon bonus. That's promo code SEASON. Offers vary by user and location. Go to upside.com for terms and conditions. We are back here on Locked On Cubs. Make sure you are subscribed to Locked On Cubs. That way you don't miss any of the great Cubs content we've got for you. That includes the Cubs postcast with Joe George live after the final out of every game. He's done an awesome job this year. We also have an important request. Locked On wants to hear from you. We've put together a survey to learn more about listeners and make your favorite podcasts even better. This is your chance to tell us what you like, what you don't, and answer questions about our advertising. Go to lockedonpodcast.com/survey to get started. Everyone who completes a survey will be entered for a chance to win one of 10 $100 Amazon gift cards. Again, that's lockedonpodcast.com/survey. You can also find the link in this episode description. As you could probably tell from the lighting, this portion of the show is being recorded before the Cubs-Giants game. Wanted to save myself a little bit with the late the late finish and all that. What I wanted to talk about is yesterday, Matt and I had a really good conversation about the season. We were kind of hinting at it. You have a lot of guys outperforming expectations, and when you have a lot of guys outperforming expectations, you want to take advantage of that and go as deep as you can. You hear Jed all the time talk about outperforming expectations, and I'm not a huge fan of that phrase, and I've let that be known. The reason why I'm not a huge fan of that phrase is because I don't understand why a team like the Chicago Cubs, with the budget that they have, why can't they build a team where if the team meets expectations, they could still be an 88, 90, 91, 92 win team. But that's just not the reality of the situation. The reality of the situation is the way that this thing is constructed, the way that it's built, is that this team needed to outperform expectations to have a good season. And they're getting some performances that you just couldn't foresee before the year started. And because of that, it's why I think we've all been so hard on this team, because don't think for one second that I haven't gone back and I don't reflect on myself on shows and go, man, am I being a little bit too hard on this team after the Reds, Cardinals, Blue Jays back-to-back series losses? Is it Brewers related? What is it that is making me so hard on this team? Because they're still having a good year. I never really doubted the whole playoff situation. And the fact of the matter is this: you're hard on this team because deep down, it's just going to be really hard to replicate. It's going to be really hard to get another season like this. First of all, the Kyle Tucker destination is always going to be a huge question mark. And yes, he struggled a lot, but he was a huge reason why they were really successful early in the year. But the big reason this is hard to replicate, and the big reason that that just things feel a little bit more important this year, as opposed to, hey, well, the future's bright, because of course the future is bright, which we'll talk about in a second, is look at some of the things that the Cubs are getting. Look at some of the performances that the Cubs are getting. I'm just going to go through all kind of the main position player guys, kind of like a 9-9 situation, but not as quick. And then the pitcher. So like Carson Kelly at catcher. Carson Kelly has greatly outperformed expectations. He has a 796 OPS, a 2.6 wins above replacement, and this is with him playing about 3 of every 4 days. He has been one of the better catchers in Major League Baseball. Now, a lot of that was accumulated early on, which is fair, but it reminds me a lot of Yan Gomes in 2023. You're not going to get another season like that of Carson Kelly next year, and you want to take advantage of it as much as you can this year. Matt Shaw, obviously in the beginning of the year, first half, he definitely underperformed expectations a little bit. But post All-Star break, he's been their best player. And I think just that in a sample size is outperforming expectations. I mean, I never expected it. If you were to tell me what's more likely, Matt Shaw being the Cubs' best player in the second half or Matt Shaw being benched, I would pick the latter. I mean, it was that clear and that obvious. I think Dansby's been right about where you'd expect him to be. I don't think he's performed below his expectations. I know the runners in scoring position stuff has been, really challenging, but overall, I think Dansby's been what you expect. Nico, I would say I have high expectations for Nico, so this is about what I expected from him, but you could convince me that he's outperformed expectations. I think Bush has been overall throughout the whole course of the year slightly above. He's come down to earth fast, but slightly above. Ian definitely has been the one position player I think it's safe to say has been below expectations. When you look at his slash line, his OPS is in the low 7s. It's just been a really quiet year for Ian, but we did talk about yesterday, in fairness to him, that there's been a lot of bad luck as a part of that. So, take that for what you would. PCA, even though it's been just a really, really rough month of August, you have to put PCA at greatly above expectations. If you were to tell me that we would be whining about PCA's performance or be complaining about it, and he's in the low 800s OPS here in mid to late August and is on pace to be a 7-WAR player, I'd be like, you've got to be kidding me. I mean, he absolutely has outperformed his expectations. I think Tucker's obviously the trickiest one. I think when you put the the beginning part of the year together with the end of the year together and combine them, I think he's probably right where he's supposed to be, maybe slightly below because of the power department, but still, it's not like he's been injured, or missed time, I should say. You've still gotten a Kyle Tucker season. Seiya is been exactly what you expect. Some unbelievable flashes, and then some flashes of not being effective at all. And we know how that roller coaster goes. But let's go into the pitching, right? So the pitching, you automatically assume you're in a below expectation situation because of Justin Steele, right? Justin Steele gets hurt. That's probably your best pitcher. And it's like, man, well, what are we going to do? Well, nobody's outperformed expectations more than Matthew Boyd, unless you want to say Cade Horton has. I mean, both those guys have been unbelievable. Shota, in my opinion, has outperformed expectations. He's been a little bit better than I thought he was going to be. I thought he'd have much more of a regression year. I think it's fair to say that Colin Ray, with what the Cubs have asked for him, with where his ERA is at, what the Cubs' record is, when he goes out there and pitches, he's outperformed expectations. And then you get to the bullpen, non-roster invitee Brad Keller. Daniel Palencia didn't even start the season with the big club. Caleb Thielbar. Those are your three best relievers before the trade deadline, and even they still are. And those guys have been absolutely remarkable for you. So the point is, when you have basically 70% of your roster, I mean, I think it's fair to say, maybe not 70%, but close to it, outperforming expectations. I mean, you look all over the diamond. That guy's been better than I thought he was going to be. That guy's been better than I thought he's going to be. You want to take advantage as much as you can. And I think going back to the trade deadline, that's why a lot of people were frustrated. It wasn't as much, well, logically it made sense. And Jed Hoyer's actually looking pretty good because the Cubs pitching, knock on wood, as I'm doing this before the game, the Cubs pitching's been really, really good. So, maybe logistically they didn't need to make a move, but you just felt so much like you wanted them to because of the whole situation of, how do you know we're going to get this again? I'd love to think that PCA is going to be this guy for the rest of his career. I'd love to think that Matt Shaw is going to be this guy for the rest of his career. I'd love to think that Cade Horton's going to be injury-free and be an ace for the rest of his career, but you just don't know. And a lot of things this season have come together, and they've come together in the right way. And I think that's why the Brewers thing was so frustrating, because it just kind of ruined what, looks like it could be a 93, 94, 95 win team. And we are learning that, to have that happen, a lot of things need to go right. So hopefully the Cubs can make a run at this division, maybe make a run in the wild card, and just take advantage of a season where you're getting so much production out of guys that, you didn't necessarily think would do it. Few news and notes, really just one. The 2026 schedule came out today. Matt and I usually love to talk about that, but most years when it's come out, we've kind of been checked out on the team, whereas in this year we really feel like, hey, well, this team's got a chance to make a deep run. So not going to get too much into it. They open the year at home for the first time, I think, probably since 2023, right? Yeah. They play the Nationals for 3 at home. Then they play the Angels. Nothing really crazy to highlight. They play the Rockies twice, 6 times in a 2-week span. That stood out. They play Milwaukee 7 times I shouldn't say a 2-week span, a 1-week span. They play Milwaukee 7 times in 10 days in September next year. That could be something that's kind of crazy, but I got to tell you, just thinking about the schedule of next year, just it's overwhelming for me. I can't even put myself there because there's a lot of baseball yet to be played this season. So, hopefully the Cubs could just maximize this season. That's really the point. Just maximize this season, because you're getting a lot of performances you just don't know if you're going to get again. This is Locked On Cubs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. For your second listen, check out the all-new Locked On MLB Game Night. Every game, every night, all season long. Get local analysis on a national scale. Find MLB Game Night on the Locked On MLB channel on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. I'm Sam Olber, and this is Locked On Cubs.